Okay, everybody. Greetings. I'm Courtney StarHeart, and you are? Introduce yourself. Are you ready?
Yes. Hello, everyone. I'm José, friend of Courtney. I live in Brazil and I work with ayahuasca since a few years in a very serious way. Had some experiences in Amazonia, which showed me how profound is this medicine. And I guess basically this is it.
We've been talking for a while about doing a series of videos or maybe a film. And of course, you've made that a reality before. So you know more about that process than me. But from my point of view, I would like to share about our ayahuasca community here. We also have a sustainable building project that we're working on. And we're working on the politics and the legality of ayahuasca in the United States. And I think that it would be helpful for people to know about the culture, about ayahuasca, and the politics. And also, I think that it often leads us to want to be of service, truly of service to other people and to the planet. So I would like to make a series about it. If we could do a series of videos or if we were to do a film, then what would you like to include?
Well, I guess there are some important points that should be discussed, which is origins of this medicine, right? The history of it, the scientific side, because today we have many studies that proves that how effective is this medicine to our mind and spirit, and also the politics, the politics around it, which in some countries, like my country, Brazil, is legalized, and USA, your country, where it's not legalized, it's accepted in some churches, but it's not fully legalized. So I guess around those three subjects, there are many things to explore, you know?
For sure. And in the United States, there's a lack of understanding, I think, about ayahuasca because it's been criminalized. And so I keep on, of course, people who know me already know that I provide ayahuasca retreats. And so that's no secret. I'm a traditionally trained medicine person, and I'm technically authorized to provide ayahuasca through our lineage. And yet it's a difficult process to get government approval. So I'd like to go through those steps, at least attempt to go through those steps with our church, because I want people to be able to find us and know that we're a legitimate church. Because it's been criminalized and placed on a controlled substance list, like drugs, like heroin, like meth, like cocaine. It's a controlled substance in that way. And so people have to go to underground ceremonies. And I've heard a lot of stories about people being mistreated because the ceremonies are underground, you know? So part of my agenda is keeping people safe and helping them find a good ceremony. Also, having access to the research. Obviously in Brazil, where it's legal, you've had the ability to do a lot of research. You know?
Yeah, and it's a pity that government is in there in the United States. It's a pity that they are placing ayahuasca in the same place of drugs, like street drugs.
Right.
It's
Anyone who's done ayahuasca knows that there's no chance of becoming addicted to it.
no, no. It's a medicine. It's a thing that heals people, including it can help to heal from the addiction of those drugs.
Right. And yet it's on the same list as those drugs.
Yeah, that's weird.
It's
I
really,
believe I believe that there are some big industries interested in do not allow ayahuasca, like pharmaceutical industry, for example. Um, I mean, depression remedies, for example, they are not the solution. They are just a face cover. And ayahuasca has many reports of depressed people being healed by it. So imagine how pharmaceutical industry would lose if ayahuasca takes on their place, you know.
that's true. And if it
And,
helps people to heal
and
their,
just so at the same time, ayahuasca is not something that can be converted in a pill and be sold in the drugstores, right? Because there are much more things around it, like the ceremony, the one that's serving, you know, it's not just a pill that you take a prescription, go buy and drink it, and the solution will show up in front of you, right?
yeah, it's not like taking an aspirin or, a high blood pressure medicine. It's not going to have the same effect in every situation. And that's part of my concern is, the set and setting piece. When we talk about set and setting, and we say that the work that a person does on their body, their meditation, the diet, taking the diet seriously, doing yoga or preparing by journaling, they're creating a set, in themselves. And then we provide the setting, and we provide the ceremony and that sacred feeling. We also provide support before and after, as well as during. Yeah, I'm always shocked when I hear people talk about these ayahuasca ceremonies where there are like 50 people and they're on yoga mats right next to each other, with their vomit buckets at the foot, and everyone's just like this. So, I mean, I've heard these stories about, people sitting next to someone on either side who's wailing all night long, and no one comes around and empties their bucket, and no one takes care of them and gives them any relief. I think that has to be a difficult experience.
Of course. Yeah, and also I believe it all depends on the school of the one that is holding the ceremony, right? Because we all goes through references, right? So if your school of ayahuasca was a great school, the way you will set up your ceremony will be great too, you know. Of course, if you had the right intentions, but also you have reference of how things works, right?
It's true. Yeah, lately, the issue has become more important about getting government authorization because a lot of medicine is being taken by the customs officials. Aduanas is taking all the medicine that's coming into the United States. Um, I spoke with someone from Shakruna who, has contact with many different ayahuasca groups in the United States. And apparently, everyone who's not Santo Daime or Union Vegetal is getting their medicine taken. That's frustrating. It's frustrating to think about all of that medicine getting thrown in the garbage. And I wonder, you know, I don't know. It just seems ironic that cocaine and meth, fentanyl, and really, really bad drugs are getting through to the United States, but ayahuasca is not. Just seems so strange that something that's healing is being treated like a drug. And it's frustrating to me personally.
Yeah. Actually, I don't guilt the custom officers. They are just following the rules. And I would guilt who made those rules to place ayahuasca in the same restriction list as other street drugs, you know.
Well, so I know what we're doing with our land here, and that would be part of what would be so interesting, is that the land that you found and what you want to do with it. Do you feel like talking about your land that you found?
Right. Sorry, I got a little distracted. My daughter was calling me.
Oh,
The older one. So the land here that I'm looking for, I found actually, and I'm speaking with the owner to probably buy it. First, just to describe, it's a wonderful, full of nature place. It's I made the right calculation now. Actually, it's 110 acres.
oh my gosh.
110 acres of full forest, full nature. And something like 3 acres where it's not forest, where is the place to build all the plans I have. And basically it's a retreat center that I want to build there. Of course, with the first target of bring people for healing, for retreats, right? But also I have a bigger project for a second moment, which is to we have here in Brazil, in Sao Paulo especially, which is a big city. Sao Paulo is the richest city of Brazil, and so many people come from the north, northeast, northwest to Sao Paulo looking for a better life. And when they arrive here, many of them get lost on the streets. And I see here in Sao Paulo many families, father, mother, and kids that are living on the streets, and they are not drug users, they are not alcohol abusers. They are just lost in there because they sold everything they had to come to Sao Paulo. They didn't find a choice here of work, something like this. And they don't have money anymore to come back to their land. So they just got lost in the streets. So this is a second part of my project, which is to help those families, to build some place for them on my land, and a project of recover those families. Let's say by 2 years, they live on this land, not just one family, but a few families. And we bring social workers to help them, to teach them profession, to help them to renew their documents, to bring health treatments to them, and in some moment help them to go back to normal life, to help them find a work, find a place to live, and start living by themselves again without any help from others. And of course, when they leave my land, they are opening a spot for a new family that we can bring to there to recover them. So it's a non-ending project, you know. So this is the project so far. But first, I need to acquire the land and build the place.
I mean, I think, at least for me, and I said this before, but after working with the medicine for years, for me, there's only one place where I'm able to end up, right? And that's always a place of more compassion and more caring. I mean, every time that I work with the medicine and I work with a group and I see people healing and I heal more and more deeply, um, I find more and more compassion for other people and more concern for the environment and for, um, for the economics that put people in such a bad position. I worry about people. The United States has changed so much since I've been alive. When I was a young woman, there was a big middle class, and a lot of my family was part of that middle class, whether they were farmers or, they had just a blue collar job. It was possible to actually have a decent life, and now there's such a big gap between the people who have money and don't have money. And so many people are left in a bad position. United States has become, in terms of economics, it's been worse now for many years than Brazil, than Mexico, Chile, Argentina. All of South America, almost all of South America, has a better economic standard than the United States in terms of wealth distribution. So we see a lot of people in despair, especially in Albuquerque. There are a lot of homeless people. Um, Huge population of people who are veterans on the streets. We don't take care of the people that we send to war. A lot of people with bad drug problems, and again, people who just can't find a job that's worth working. Um, so I think it would be nice to build a template for an eco village that people could use all over the United States and hopefully all over the world. So we have a much smaller piece of land, only 4 acres, but it's really close to the city here, to Albuquerque, and it's high up on a mesa, and it looks a lot like the mountains in Peru. So an organization has come in and wants to do a practice village here, so they can learn how to work with the Quero, with the people in Peru. So I'm excited to see what happens. Aquaponics and permaculture and traditional building. Um, Also dew collectors, for water.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it would be nice to be able to employ 20 or 30 families, hopefully, and provide housing for them. We'll
Yeah.
need people to work on the land, and
Yeah.
especially with the aquaponics.
And teach them a new profession.
Well, yeah. And I mean, if you have food and you have a roof over your head, then it makes life a lot easier, you know? And we all should learn how to live together again. A big part of the issues that I see when people come to ceremony, the things they're suffering from is lack of connection. They have a lack of connection to each other, lack of connection to their family, and to the earth.
Sorry, Courtney, my daughter was calling me. I had to write for her that I cannot speak now.
Oh, that's okay. I have kids too. It's okay.
Uh,
And plus, I think we can almost be done.
Sorry. Just one comment about the lands I was looking here. Although it's big, I told you 110 acres.
Right.
Uh, only it's a preservation area, so 90% of it must be preserved, cannot be cut. And so there is other, let's say, from the 10% that we can cut, 3%, 4% is already cut, but the other 6% I will make my best efforts to keep them as it is, you know. And another thing, you told this difference of richness and poorness, right, in the world. This is so, it's very hard for me to understand that, because um, people are losing the essence of life. So it's hard for me to understand how someone can have a $100 million boat and do not use part of their wealthy, of their money, to help people that are hungry on the streets. You know, it's, I don't understand that. I don't understand why, what was lost, and in what moment it was lost in, you know, that human being started loving money is, instead of loving human beings, you know.
You know what is it's funny, I asked that question when I first came to Albuquerque, and I talked with my elder, with Patricio, and he's a traditional shaman. We don't have any of those left because all of our forests have been cut down and all of our natives have been, you know, pushed onto reservations a long time ago. So I know you guys still have authentic native elders, which is wonderful. I can't wait to get there. But for me, it was really unique and I had so many questions. And that was my first question. Well, that was my second question. How can people treat each other that way? And he said, well, it all started once upon a time back in a village. He said that they have a teaching story that once upon a time in the village, everyone shared everything. And the person who hunted the buffalo and the people who made the corn and the people who did everything, they were all equal and they shared everything equally. And then he said, there's a story that one day the guy who made the spears, who made the bows and arrows, who made the weapons, decided that he was the most important because he made the weapons that killed the meat that fed people. And so then he demanded that he should have twice as much of the meat, right? And so then before you know it, he demanded that his entire family should have twice as much. And, you know, this went on and on. And as you get farther into the story, you can see how it all happened. That people who have certain jobs or have certain privileges think themselves more important, right? And then you get even farther into it, into money. And I mean, a big part of it, I think, happened after World War II. I studied economics, and after World War II, they took us off of the gold standard. At least somewhere once upon a time, there was $1 worth of gold for every dollar, right? And after World War II, the United States decided that we didn't need the gold standard anymore. And that United States, not the government, but the Federal Reserve, which is a privately owned institution, is going to determine the value of the dollar by how many dollars are put in circulation. And this makes it even worse now, because now you can accrue all of this wealth. And someone who's not really worth anything more than any other human being can have millions of dollars. And for what? At the very least, I think we should be able to take everyone's money away at the end of their life. You know what I mean? Like when you play a board game, like if you play Monopoly, eventually you shut the game and you go, okay, let's go have some ice cream. Let's do something else, right?
That would be awesome.
But yeah, I think, I've studied this for a long time, and I think the only way, I know that the only way out of this really is sustainability, is going back to the earth. If we're all living in a village and we're all working together, then it takes us out of that economic system. So what I would like more than anything else is to see a series of eco-villages so that people have a choice. Right now, people have no choice. Either they work a stupid job that they hate or they die.
And I think this behavior, which is messing up the world, is because people are losing the connection with nature. Um, if you go to any indigenous tribe here in Amazonia, the one that makes the weapons to hunt, he's okay with one part for him and not two parts for him. And because they live as community, which they understand that everybody depends on each other, but they live there in the nature. And I think the lack of people connected to nature is what is messing up everything.
Right? The artificial world we live in
Yeah.
kind of encourages people to be unkind. Actually, it seems to reward people being unkind or being selfish.
Yeah, selfish for sure.
The egoísta.
Egoísta.
Well, so the cure is bigger than just ayahuasca. The cure is the eco village. Years ago, we had a piece of land when I got here. And we started doing farming, we started building, and the people ruined it because they were fighting all the time, just fighting and complaining and negative. And, one person would say, well, I worked harder than them. I should get more, or I should have more privileges because I worked harder. And the other person would say, no, I worked harder. And it was like, oh my gosh, we're all working together, So one person might be working a little bit faster. Maybe the other person is working better quality. We don't know, but like we're not here to have arguments all day long. But I would see that the people were unhealed, so then we had to step backwards and say, okay, well, what do we do now? And so we started working with plant medicine in the hopes that we could actually heal people enough so that they would be able to live together. Because we're nothing like those tribes in Amazonia. We're so far away from that, especially in the United States. There's a lot of selfishness, I think. Of course, there's a lot of kindness. I shouldn't be so negative, but when we tried to make an eco village 20 years ago, it fell apart because the people weren't ready.
Let's hope the new generations change that, right?
I hope the medicine can change that. But I would like to do a series so that we can document all of this that's happening. And to also talk about ayahuasca.
Yes. Of course.
Okay.
So,
I see your family is probably calling. So I'm going to stop the recording for now. We can
no, actually it was my calendar that just showed up. You mean today? I didn't tell my wife that we were going to record, so she was organizing the house. The cat decided to get crazy today, running all around the house. So, and my daughter calling, and so I made this with bunch of sound around me, but we done it.
But we've done it, and this is real life, right?
Yeah.
This is how life is when we have a family that we love.
The good one is that the newborn was not crying, so in this case, I should stop.
Right? Okay. We'll stop recording for now.
All right.